The bond between a mother and son, it's one of the most powerful forces in a person's life. It can be this amazing bedrock of strength and love, and it really shapes how a man learns to connect with the rest of the world.
And think about it, that first connection. It truly sets the stage for so much of what comes later. It's where a man first learns about trust, about love, and how to see himself. When that bond is healthy, it's an incredible foundation for a resilient and emotionally secure life.
But what happens when that foundational relationship, the one that's supposed to be a safe harbor, actually becomes a source of harm? Today, we're diving into that. We're going to uncover the subtle and sometimes not so subtle ways this bond can get twisted, creating patterns that can last a lifetime. And recognizing them, well, that's the first step to understanding everything else.
Okay, but before we get into the tough stuff, it's really helpful to know what we're aiming for, right? A healthy bond is all about balance. It's a mix of love and support, but also, and this is absolutely crucial, the encouragement of independence. When any of those pieces are out of whack, that's when problems can start to creep in.
So in this explainer, we're going to break down 6 common types of unhealthy mother-son dynamics. These patterns can be really subtle or super obvious, but they all share one thing in common. They can have a massive impact on a son's life.
All right, let's jump right in and start looking at these dynamics. As we explore these 6 common patterns, you might find some of this sounds, well, a little familiar. Maybe in your own life, or in the lives of people you know.
First up, we've got a term I'm sure you've heard before: the mama's boy. Now, this isn't just about a close, loving relationship. We're talking about a dynamic where a mother, whether she means to or not, kinda smothers her son's ability to figure out who he is on his own.
And this cause and effect relationship is so important to understand. The mother's need for control, which often gets disguised as just being caring, creates a son who feels totally trapped. His own kindness gets used against him, and that can build up a really deep resentment that sooner or later is going to find a way out.
Okay, next up is a really complex one. It's called the mother and lover. This happens when a mother, often dealing with her own loneliness after losing a partner, puts her son in the role of an emotional stand-in for her husband, and that is an impossibly heavy weight for any child to carry.
I mean, let's be clear. A child should never be responsible for an adult's emotional well-being. It's just not their job. This kind of role reversal can be so damaging, confusing the son's own sense of self, and, of course, leading to resentment towards the very person who put him in that position.
So we've gone from a mother who's too present to one who's not there at all. This is the absent mother. Whether she's physically gone or just emotionally checked out, the effect is huge. Her absence creates this vacuum during the most critical years of his development.
And this quote, wow, it really gets to the heart of it. A son in this spot might even blame himself, thinking he did something to drive her away. To deal with that painful emptiness, he might fill that void with anger. In a way, that anger becomes a shield. It's something to hold on to when there's nothing else.
All right, number 4 on our list is what we call the boss and subordinate. This is a relationship built purely on power. The mother isn't acting like a parent, she's acting like a commander. The son's feelings, his opinions, his entire identity, they all get pushed down. It is her way or the highway, period.
And what's wild here is that this kind of upbringing can push a son in one of 2 very different directions. Because he never got to make his own choices, he might grow up totally unable to function without someone telling him what to do. Or he could flip the script completely and become a controller himself in his other relationships.
Next, we have the hide-and-seek mom, and it's exactly what it sounds like. This relationship is all about inconsistency. The son never knows which version of his mom he's going to get. One day she's warm, the next she's cold and distant. It's like emotional roulette, and it forces him to keep his distance because getting close just feels way too risky.
So what's the result of all that unpredictability? Well, you learn to protect yourself, right? If you can't even trust your own mom for consistent love, how are you supposed to trust anyone else? He learns to build up these huge walls to avoid getting hurt, which, down the line, can lead to serious struggles with social anxiety and forming real, intimate connections.
And for our last pattern, number 6, we have the mom and her trophy boy. In this scenario, the son's value isn't about who he is, it's about what he achieves. He basically becomes an extension of his mother's ego, a prize to be shown off. And love, yeah, that feels completely conditional on his performance.
You know this person, right? The all-star on the outside seems like they have it all together, but underneath that shiny surface, there's often this deep, gnawing fear of failure and a relentless inner critic that just won't shut up.
The pressure to be perfect is nonstop, and the emotional toll is just immense.
Okay, so we've just walked through 6 really distinct patterns. Now let's kind of zoom out for a minute and look at the bigger picture. What are the common threads here? What are the lasting consequences that ripple through a man's life because of these dynamics?
And as you can probably guess, the long-term effects are pretty far-reaching. From struggling with independence and making decisions, to developing social anxiety, to becoming a total people-pleaser, or being intensely self-critical, the echoes of that first foundational relationship can shape an entire life.
I know. After going through all of that, things might feel a little heavy. But hang on, because this next part is maybe the most important takeaway of all. Understanding these patterns isn't about pointing fingers or placing blame. It's about gaining clarity. And with clarity, that's where you find the power to change things.
And I want you to really let this idea sink in. Your past is a part of your story, for sure, but it is not the entire book. Recognizing where you came from is the first, crucial step toward consciously deciding where you want to go. It doesn't have to be a life sentence.
Which brings us to a final thought, a question really, just for you. Healing is a personal journey, and it's going to look different for everybody. For some, it might mean setting new boundaries. For others, it might be seeking therapy, or maybe it's just learning to be a little kinder to yourself. So the question to leave you with is this: what does healing look like for you?